she has to leave.
Yeah,
we appreciate it, of course. Okay, just let you know.
Okay. So I'm just gonna go. Maybe I say bye, depending on what's in the situation. Just gonna step out.
Well, we can do that. And just one question to the host of the session. Maybe one can give us a sign when we can start officially, so that we know.
Yes, you can start. The live stream is already running.
Okay, fantastic.
All right.
So then I say hello to everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining us at this lab number 5, where we focus on the arts and the role of arts. And I'm giving the floor immediately to my co-host. We're together hosting this session, Doris Sommer, and she will start with the session. Then during the session, we will introduce the other speakers and people in the session. I guess then we don't lose that much time. So just give you an introduction. Doris Sommer, she's a professor for Romance, Languages and Literatures and African and American Studies at Harvard University. She's also the director of the program Cultural Agents and Pretext, which we'll hear about that in a few minutes. And she was the initiator of a new project, movement at Harvard University and globally, which is entitled Renaissance Now. And this connects very well with the idea of this session. And we all know that the Urban Thinkers Campus, the meta headline of the Urban Thinkers Campus is Climate Action, Mannheim and the Local Green Deal. You know that Mannheim adopted the European Green Deal for locally and made a contract with the EU. And the target of our session here is to bring in the role of arts in this regard in general, and maybe we'll hear some examples here and there, but also to get aware of the mechanism that can play a role within solving problems like climate disaster and so on. So, but that's the broader frame of it. And I will immediately pass the floor to Doris, and I'm happy that she joining us this morning, as it is 5:15 in the morning where she is in Cambridge in the US. So thank you so much, Doris, for joining us, and thank you so much for getting up very, very early. I know you're an early bird anyway, but this is very early. Thank you so much, Doris. Please.
Okay, how do I share a screen?
Can maybe someone from the tech side assist Doris to share a screen?
It's on the bottom, in the middle, the left icon, the right icon, sorry.
Share my screen. Okay, very good.
Because I cannot see that. That's interesting. Okay, good.
You need presentator rights to have it, this icon. That's fine.
Yeah, good. That's fine. Doris can share.
Okay, I'm not sure. You know, if we have a friendly tech companion, maybe I can just send the link and ask you to show it.
Sure.
Maybe you
Is that
send
right?
it in the chat. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
In the chat.
Thank you. It's just a few seconds. What is the name of our tech companion? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Okay.
Right.
That was cool, Doris. Thank you.
Yeah, these things circulate. We don't have a place to collect good ideas. So that's one of the reasons that Renaissance Now got launched. Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Manuela.
I did.
Yeah. So, yeah. So Doris, maybe you can give the idea to the others what Renaissance Now, what this project means and where it's coming from. We have seen an idea now and where it's heading to.
Okay. So we're already in the session.
Yes. You can start. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Reiner. Thank you so much, friends, for inviting me and for inviting all of you to join Renaissance Now. As Reiner said, this is a project, but we imagine it as a movement because many of us are engaged in addressing the SDGs through collaborations among artists, policymakers, active citizens in general. One of the challenges that we have is that creative people around the world are developing and executing brilliant ideas to address climate change, to have a green agenda, but we don't know each other. And we can't use each other's inspirations if every inspiration looks like a one-off and doesn't share a spirit. And the spirit is what we call Renaissance Now. One thing that I learned from my friends in history and in art history is that the Renaissance is a moment when we came out of a plague and we came out of the cloisters. Scholars, artists, came out of the cloisters and engaged in the world. We took risks and we made collaborations between scholars and bankers and artists and politicians. We were not shy. We worked like scientists through trial and error. This is the spirit that may save us. A combination of audacity and humility, because there's no way to do this work by ourselves. If I know an artist who doesn't want to measure the effect of his or her work, let's find a sociologist or an anthropologist or an economist who is interested in measuring. Because if we can create interventions that have measurable outcomes, we have something to share with policymakers who are reluctant sometimes to think about art as the game changer, as the energy behind the SDGs. So in my very brief remarks, I want to say that collaboration is absolutely at the center of Renaissance, then and now. One thing that I learned from my engineering colleagues is that all of the SDGs, each one of them, depends on all the others. You cannot have a Green Deal if you don't have equity of gender, of income, of education. You cannot have equal education if you don't have a Green Deal, if you don't have equity of gender, equity of income. Each one depends on the other. So wherever you press, the whole board lights up. This is an acupuncture activity. We're all involved in this, and therefore we need one another. I come into this work with the contribution that I can make is as an educator. I don't know how to make clever engineering solutions, although I know that there is a smog cleaning tower in Denmark. I don't know if you know this innovation, but it's marvelous. There's a tower in the middle of a park that absorbs the black smog and compresses it to the degree that it produces little jewels, not real diamonds, but false diamonds that then fiancés offer to their brides-to-be. And it's a symbolic as well as a physical way to address the smog. One question that we have is how to avoid smog, not only absorb it, not only make art from it. And here, some of us know, some of us do not know, and this is why we need to feature it in Renaissance Now. The whole movement of slow cities, of slow food, of slow manufacture. I have many engaged friends who don't know this movement, and yet it's a way of celebrating and featuring artists and artisans who know how to prevent climate disaster just because we stop rushing. There's no way to save the world if we continue to have a modern notion of usefulness and of productivity and of gain. There's no way. We have to relearn how to be artisans and artists all. So part of what I consider my obligation as a teacher is to share some of these wonderful initiatives, to make them visible to one another. And we will generate through the Renaissance Now website a journal called Cases for Culture. Everyone knows what a business school case looks like. It's short, it has a proposal, it analyzes the effects, the outcome of a particular business initiative, and sometimes makes speculations on why something worked, why it didn't, what we can change. There are many cases of culture in business schools, but they're not collected. There's no rubric. No one notices that these are cultural interventions. So our journal, Cases for Culture, will collect some of these good examples and generate proposals for new cases for culture. Artists need not worry about measurement as long as they're friendly to the idea, and then they can look for collaborators who make their careers on measurement. We'll have a journal called Cases for Culture, and also a certificate program of short courses geared to policymakers who are skeptical about the arts as game changers. Policymakers are trained generally as social scientists, so they imagine that culture is a legacy, something to protect, not something to use as an arm, as munition against existing legacies, against paradigms that keep us limited and tribal. Artists are irreverent, and so people who imagine culture as something to revere don't see the other face of art as the irreverent intervention into paradigms. So we want to change those limitations into opportunities for policymakers. That will be the certificate program. And among the cases that we will report on are educational cases through art making. And here, my colleague Yilmaz Holzerstein and I are already involved in bringing one such project to Mannheim, using the arts to interpret challenging texts. The public library, under Yilmaz's direction, has just done a training in using a text as raw material to make another art form. And when we do that, when we train trainers to engage children and youth and families to use a text as raw material, we liberate people from the assumptions of old texts. We make texts useful, and we invite them into the joke that every literary critic knows, and that is that reading is a creative activity, that each reading is different from one another. And if we can start to enjoy those differences, we can start to be citizens in the world and enjoy difference and ask people of different genders, different races, different language groups, what they make of this text, and be fascinated by what we didn't think of. So instead of reading for getting answers right or wrong, we read to multiply interpretations and to keep conversations going. This is the legacy of the Renaissance. It was developed very well in Germany with Kant and Schiller using the art moment only as a trigger for conversation. Aesthetic pleasure is the pleasure of reflecting on the beautiful and also the sublime. So I cannot tell you how honored and happy I feel to be among you in the middle of urban renewal, because we're in Mannheim. And I invite you all to visit Renaissance Now on your website and start to think of proposals for courses and especially for cases for culture. Thank you so much, Rainer. I hope that's enough of a spark to talk collaboratively, because, as I say, we need one another.
Doris, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this very, very, very good introduction to this session that covers all the aspects we should and must talk about and would like to talk about at this session. And thank you so much for also giving an idea what Renaissance Now, this new movement which was initiated by you, means, and what it can mean also for Mannheim. And maybe we'll put the webpage in the chat so everyone can see and can check later. And so many of these aspects are reflected in the group we have today. And what you said, a very important point, that all the SDGs, when we look through the lens of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, then we can see that everyone is interconnected and interdependent, as we say. And as you said, there is no climate action without inequity, and gender inequality. And this gives me a good lens to the next speaker, which I would like to pass on the mic very fast because she has to leave early. And before I do that, I would like to say that Nadja couldn't join us. She called me before the session because she's working as a nurse, and she thought that she will have a break where she can join us. But in the hospital, there's a lot of things going on, so she cannot interrupt her work. She cannot join us. So we'll meet her at another time, hopefully. So just to inform you. So, but I give the floor now to Julia Nagele, also known as Jules. She's a musician and she's a game changer, I would say. So the first Renaissance Now session we just launched 4 weeks ago was under the headline "Game Changing Through Culture," and that's why it's very, very good that Jules is opening this session after Doris and explaining what her game-changing approach is. So as I said, Jules is a musician. That's why she has to leave, because she's having a concert and she has to do the sound check before that. She's doing game changing through very, very different things, through a green approach within her being a musician, but also with empowering women in music. But Jules, please go ahead. You tell us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me. I can tell you about different ways I work and try to have sustainability more in like everyone's life. But maybe I start with the Music Women. The Music Women Germany is a nationwide umbrella organization of all music women and female-defined non-binary individuals and their networks in music industry in Germany. So across all genres and sectors, regardless of age, origin, or level of personal professionalization, for a music culture and music ecosystem that is multi-faced, diverse, digital, and networked. So why do we need this kind of organization? Well, let's keep it simple. As long as there are still festival lineups with 95% male artists or German rap that normalizes rape culture, it's obvious. But digging deeper, I believe we want a system change. And if we want a system change, we need a more or a system change for a more social and sustainable future. We need more diversity in major and major key positions. So we need people we haven't been heard we need people that haven't been heard so much so far to change views. The core of Music Women Germany is, besides a job portal, the database, so Music Women and female identifying and non-binary individuals have more visibility. So we have Music Women Germany, and then in the States we have, for example, where I'm a board member, is Music Women Baden-Württemberg. We started in Mannheim and has active members through all Baden-Württemberg and further by now. So we organize music events for female artists, co-workings, so we bring them all together and so they can network. We give workshops, panel discussions, regular meetings for everyone to join and discuss and brainstorm and think, okay, what can we do to change? And I want to point out that men are just as welcome and important because we need them all to be involved in this discussion. So yeah, as Rainer said, I have like different ways of working for a more sustainability future. I also want to point out a organization that is called Music Declares Emergency. Maybe you know them. They come originally from England, from Britain. And now we also have a Music Declares Emergency in Germany. And I know music industry needs a lot more. There's a long way to go, but there are very informative ideas that give Music Declares Emergency for a more sustainable production, tour productions, merchandise, anything that belongs to the music industry. And I think this is very, very important and a very, for me, very motivating. I always, like whenever I have a question on like, okay, what can I do? Like, how can I have a more sustainable merchandise? I look on their homepage and check out what they do or what they suggest. And then, I think also as a speaker now for the music sector in the, what's it called? Sorry. The Council for Arts and Culture, it is important to me to bring the players in Mannheim's music industry closer together and to take a closer look at the 3 pillars of sustainability. How transparent and fair is the treatment of self-employed soloists? How does the local added value behave? But also, how can the industry reduce emissions? So I think there is a lot to do, and I think I'm very looking forward for a communality, imperfection, transparency, and most of all, fairness for all. I can tell you more about like my green merchandise. If you have any questions, let me know.
So Jules, thank you so much. I think this was a very good follow-up of the introduction Doris gave into the Renaissance Now idea, because you reflect a lot of the points we build the Renaissance Now around. Thank you so much. And just as you mentioned, you're a sustainable merchandise. I think we have to say a word of that. Maybe I can just, because you were reporting about that yesterday evening already at the opening of the Urban English Campus. So Jules, for example, later, she's not printing t-shirts for her tour she's doing, but you can bring your used t-shirt, and then she's printing on your t-shirt that already exists. And that's a great idea, I think. But we can talk about that later. So thank you so much, Jules, and we hope you can stay for a while so that we can discuss with you and can come back to you later with questions. But just in case you have to leave, that everyone knows Jules is going to play a concert soon, so she has to do the sound check and prepare. And that's incredible that you've been joining us this morning just before your concert. You're really great, Jules. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I would like to pass the mic or the floor whatsoever to Andrew, who is joining us from Bristol in England, and because he has prepared something that connects to the Renaissance Now idea, reconnecting science and community, science and arts, as it has been during the Renaissance times. And Andrew is working in this bridging field for a long time now. He's the director of the Festival of Ideas and the Festival of the Future City in Bristol in England. And I've been visiting him with Christian, our friend from the City Council, a few years ago, and we've seen the examples on site, his work on site, and that's incredible. And please, Andrew, give us an insight what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Rainer. And the first two contributions really struck a chord with me in terms of the work we've been doing. So I'm very pleased to be here to be talking about them. And good luck with the concert, Jules. It's a pity we can't hear it, but maybe on another occasion. I hope we can welcome you to Bristol at some point because of the work you do. I'm going to just talk about the things that we've been doing in Bristol. As I said, the first two presentations struck a strong chord with what we've been doing over the last 25 years in our work in the cultural renewal of the city. And Rainer asked me to talk about this in terms of art, sciences, and regeneration. Just to start with the city of Bristol, because people may not be aware of where Bristol is or what it is. It's the lead city in the southwest of England. It has a population of around 440,000 people, but serves a metropolitan population, the area around the city, of nearly 1 million, and that's an area called the West of England. It has a minority population made up of many different communities of people of around 22%. It is a city known nationally for many things in the past, and indeed now, with all the debate going on, for being a leading city in the trade in enslaved African people. It's regarded as a wealthy city now, partly built on that trade, which it is in some economic terms, though also has some of the poorest areas of the country. It is, though, a strong centre for culture and creativity, for law, for higher education, for media, for aerospace, and for engineering generally, as well as financial services. My organisation, which used to be called Bristol Cultural Development Partnership, is now called Bristol Ideas, was set up in 2003. And it brings together in the active management and funding of the programme, the business community, the City Council, arts organisations, including Arts Council England, the prime funding organisation in England, and our 2 universities, and many other partners on projects. We have always taken a wide view of culture. For us, there is no divide between arts and sciences. We have been interested in the work of creative people, whether they are artists, poets and writers, or sociologists, engineers, economists, scientists, or medics. For us, the art and act of creation is critical. This means we have and continue to work widely across the city and with the widest range of people possible. Key belief for us is that the wider the range of people and organisations involved, the greater the opportunity for creative thinking and activity. We operate in a unique way in terms of both what we do and how we do it. We work always in partnership. We are a partnership, as mentioned, that's our company. We are developers of projects doing the work in the early stages that others are not able to do, often mundane work, but essential. Feasibility and business planning, networking, developing and submitting funding bids, raising sponsorship. We allow creative people to get on with what they do best, developing projects and making great things happen. We choose to implement just a few things ourselves, but influence others to work with us and inspire widely so that most hear about, learn from, and can contribute to the projects that we run. How has this worked in practice? Our projects have changed over the years. In the early years, we focused on the renewal of the harbourside area of Bristol. Bristol is fortunate, it has water coming right into the centre of the city. We created a new science, media and arts centre, now called We the Curious, and I'll put links to some of these things in the chat, which is one of the leading centres for learning in the United Kingdom. This was our first big project, and it was important not just for leading the regeneration of that area, which has since become a very vibrant area for housing and for business and for leisure, but also a symbol of how arts and sciences could work together. We spent many years leading Bristol's bid to be European Capital of Culture in 2009. Ultimately, that was not successful. We were shortlisted and was both a confidence boost and a vindication of the arts science approach. Our 2006 project, Brunel 200, celebrated the great British engineer Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who transformed Bristol. It was the bicentenary of his birth, and this project brought together artists with poets, writers, engineers in all disciplines, and more. And our 2010 project, BAC 100, marked 100 years of the Bristol Aeroplane Company, which started making planes out of wood and glue and went on to make Concorde and remains important with Rolls-Royce and Airbus. We created a replica, the engineers at Rolls-Royce created a replica plane from the First World War, which was used in education. We had aerospace engineers work in schools on the science of flight. The aerospace companies helped commission a choral piece, which was performed in the city about the history of aviation in Bristol. I could point to many other projects. A weekend about Frankenstein we ran. The author of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley, lived in Bristol for a short time, which included a new play, a series of new poems, and scientists debated Frankenstein, and a short film festival. All our projects bring together all of these activities, whether it's exhibitions, education projects, commercial activity, work in higher education, research projects, and more. Rainer mentioned our Festival of Ideas, which has now run for 15 years. This brings the world's best thinkers and commentators to Bristol to meet with and debate with people here. And it has developed specialist festivals on economics, the future of cities every 2 years, as well as specialist conferences and seminars. And we're currently this year running a project on cinema and film, marking the 125th anniversary of the first cinema show in the city, as well as the centenary of the death of William Freeze Green, a pioneer of filmmaking born in Bristol. This is about the art of film, the science of filmmaking, and the experience and joy of cinema going over the decades. Climate action is critical to our work. It's embedded in everything we do and the way we do it. We have a very strong sustainability policy. Bristol was European Green Capital in 2015, where the arts and the environment was central to the work of the city. We ran many projects that year. It's where Festival of the Future City started. And one project I'll briefly mention, which was two whales, sculptures made out of wicker, and also plastic bottles, which was used in a big campaign in the city to campaign against single-use plastic. Finally, I should mention learning. We encourage wide learning about the city of Bristol and the issues we are dealing with. I loved the bit at the beginning talking about the importance of reading. That was a very strong part of our work as well. And we ran a project for many years called the Great Reading Adventure, where we encouraged people to read the same book at the same time and gave away tens of thousands of copies of those books. One in 2008 was a 200-page cartoon history of Bristol, which we had 85,000 copies printed and which was used extensively across the city and still is, in fact, 13 years on, to learn about Bristol. Finally, in terms of our organisation, we're a small team, 4 members of staff, and our work is dedicated to working with and through others. In this way, we can maximise what we do with a small call on public resources. In summary, we are about creativity in arts and sciences. Collaboration is key. Well-led and well-managed partnerships are essential. Celebrating the place and what it has achieved is important. Freeing up creative people to deliver what they want to do delivers important results. And we use anniversaries, as you've noted, no doubt for activity and debate, but we make sure they're about marking the past and showing how this contributes to the present, and most importantly, the future of the place. And finally, the importance of cities. Cities are critical to us. They're the great creations of our time, over time, many centuries, and which can help solve the great challenges we face. Rainer, I'll finish there, but I'm very happy to take any questions or comments and join the discussion.
Andrew, thank you so much for this huge insight you gave us in the different strands you're working on, which are incredible. And Doris, I think you would agree that this is exactly what Renaissance Now is talking about, what we've heard from Jules, but also from Andrew now. And that's wonderful, as Doris already said in her introduction, that all these things are happening, but they never meet. And so it's wonderful that we can meet today here and hopefully expand that. So thank you so much, Andrew. And as I said, I've been there, I've been in Bristol, I've seen the work of Andrew, and this is really impressive. When you walk with Andrew through the city, it's not like walking with someone else through the city. It's a totally different approach, and you see all these different points. And I put some of the things you mentioned as a link in the chat, so please acknowledge that. And we will come back to Andrew with some questions, I guess, and some discussion points. And that's absolutely fantastic. What we've heard so far, as when Jules introduced her work on gender equality, and now we've heard that a city like Bristol is really working on these things for a long time and had some results. That's very important. It's not only work that is done, it has a huge impact to the city, and not only to the city, as we know. And I would like to pass the floor to Julia, who is representing this new project or this new initiative, this new movement, whatever. We'll hear from Julia what she thinks it is. Came out of the last Schillertage. So you know that once a year there's a Schiller Festival embedded in the National Theater in Mannheim, which is one of the main theaters in Germany. And so during the Schiller Days this year, this initiative came up, or this group met, and as we've heard from Julia earlier, they already decided to continue with their work. But Julia, and we never met Julia, so maybe you can say some words about you, and then the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rainer. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. Johanna's Visionen is the group I'm representing. I'm Jut Cecin. I've been with the Theaterhaus G7 in Mannheim for almost 20 years in an amateur, so very lovingly capacity. I work as a teacher, as a lecturer, as a translator. And I am a lover of theater. That's why I joined Johanna's Visionen, die Festivalbesetzerin, so Joan's Visions, the festival occupiers. And we're a group of women, and I'm saying women, but I mean women with the X, to include all female identifying people, non-binary people, because we decided that this is very important to us to not exclude anyone, which brings us to a point that language, of course, and the use of language is very important for us. Although we definitely do not claim to know everything, we try to be careful and very open about the way we talk. We, as I said, a group of women who discuss our ideals of female or feminist positions and representation in the city of Mannheim, in its culture and in its theater. And so it all started basically with this play right here, Schiller's Die Jungfrau von Orleans, so Joan of Arc, which was this year's Schillertage's main production for the Nationaltheater. And so we went off of that, and we were called Johanna's Visionen. And because for this year's Schillertage, the National Theater Mannheim, together with the Theaterhaus G7, decided to bring together a group of women who wouldn't normally meet, wouldn't normally get together and discuss, to experience and discuss theater together. Why those women, why us wouldn't normally meet? Well, it's because we have dramatically different backgrounds, socially and culturally. We differ chronologically as well. We are between the ages of 23 and 73. Plus, we have very different viewing habits when it comes to theater. Some of us are adamant, uber regular theater goers and love the theater. Some of us rarely ever go to the theater and yet love the theater. But our shared interest was theater as a space, not just of performance, but also of encounters. So as a space that connects us, and ideas really connects the entire city, represents the entire city and entire society. In any case, to make sure that Johannes Visionen became as diverse a group as we currently are, with a wide range of socio-cultural partners here in the city that assisted us in spreading the info about the group. Among them, the Frauenkulturrat Mannheim, there's the Musikprojekt Faltenrock, who spread the information, das Deutsch-Türkische Institut für Arbeit und Bildung, das Queere Zentrum Mannheim, and many more. So we ended up quite a, well, I think we're plenty diverse, but since we are in our storming and forming phase, we very much welcome and embrace any women, female identifying people who would like to join us in our ongoing discourse. And yes, we say ongoing, while this was initially thought to be a group centered around the Schillertage Festival, meant to really just digest and discuss the goings on at the Schillertage. We, the Johannas, that's what we're calling each other these days, decided to keep going. In fact, we're not done. We've just started, or so we said. During the festival, we watched quite a bit of theater and talked about it. The roles that we've seen on stage and the roles that we play. We're allowed to play as women, that the role of, well, the representation as well, and the power structures that we see in theater and society. And so we thought a lot about our shared existence in Mannheim, and if there's something that's centered around what female influences are, the role of the arts, especially the theater, in our urban society, because we all believe that theater is not just, you know, for shits and giggles, for like a fun escapism act that we can enjoy, but something that constitutes or at least represents actual cultural change. And we thought maybe as women in our urban society, maybe we could give something back to the theater. Maybe our theater and our society actually could learn something from our perspectives. And so in our storming and forming phase, we're thinking maybe we could become something like a feminist critical friend group that could go in, if asked to, and advise on critical feminist perspectives, female approaches, basically. During the Schillertage, we didn't only talk about our experiences. We didn't want to just get together and chat. We also wanted to produce something. So we produced a few radio broadcasts and a few post-show discussions that were streamed into the interwebs as well. There's a Telegram channel that you can still join for people who are interested in this group. There's general thoughts, musings, if you will, books and articles that move us and sometimes that anger us, and then we discuss those, those cultural impulses. For sure, we don't want to see each other as a group of women who have all the answers. Rather, we're a group of women who ask questions, ask each other, ask the city, ask the theaters, ask the theater makers, get in contact with people who shape the current art scene. And while the Nationaltheater Mannheim is rather diverse for theater in its size, for a Staatstheater, Nationaltheater, and the Theaterhaus TIG7 is being led by women, traditionally so, we still see a very male-centered, male-centric art scene, and we want to question that a bit. So as I said, in the moment when the formative stages, trying to find our place, trying to see if we can remain attached to the Nationaltheater Mannheim and the Theaterhaus TIG7 as a home ground, because they created us, funded us. The project was kindly funded by the Fonds Soziokultur from the Programm Neustart Kultur. So yeah, at the moment, we're also trying to figure out how we can fund this, because we want to make sure that all people who want to join can, without any problems with regard to, you know, your wallet. You know, we want everyone to join us for theater evenings, for experiences and culture, without having to worry that you might not be able to afford it. So for us, looking at the SDGs, there's definitely a very strong need in gender equality, but also sustainable cities and strong institutions. And that's all on top of the fact that we all come from widely different backgrounds as professional working women, with or without children, with or without partners, who then carry all of the beautiful things that we've seen and the beautiful thoughts that we've thought together and fought out together into their personal lives, creating a ripple effect of culture not being contained in itself, but actually causing change potentially. So there's many balls in the air at the moment. But what I would like to leave you with at this very stage is a few questions that we asked ourselves as part of our closing communique, which we also broadcast on the Bermuda Funk. A couple of questions that are important for us to consider and that we're not done discussing. So you get a better idea. Questions like, why is access to the arts, to theatre, more complicated, more difficult for Black, Indigenous people of color? Why don't we see more actors with all sizes and shapes of bodies on stage? Why do we see people on stage, naked people on stage who are only slender and sort of conformed to set beauty images? Why don't we see more trained actors playing together, making theater with lay people? And how can voices of so-called minorities be much better represented? Not only represented, but actually seen making art, creating and shaping their artistic realities. And that leads to where does the power lie in the theater, and how can we deconstruct hierarchies and power structures? And finally, why are we told the same old stories over and over again? So lots and lots to think about, lots and lots to maybe then go and push to change. And so I'd love to see you all again in the theater at some point to discuss what we've seen and to discuss what we will see together. So thank you all.
Julia, thank you so much for sharing this very, very strong example of Renaissance, I'd say. And what is also wonderful, despite all the different things you mentioned, is that an arts event, the Schiller Days Festival, started a chain reaction.
Yeah.
So there was this initial group meeting there with some aims, but now you are here with all the things you said and all the plans ahead of you, and a group that is formed already that decided to continue work. So this is also a wonderful example that arts can kickstart something. And it's not only a one-off art event, you go there and then you go home and forget, but that's great that you took this and took it home and continue to work on that. Thank you so much, Julia. And we will maybe also hear more from your colleague and friend Ronja, who is also part of the group Johanna's, but she is actually right now she's at a school in Mannheim and trying to get them involved into theater, or get them enthusiastic.
Exactly. She's involved in a job, but if she makes it, she'll join us later, and she's looking forward to it. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
That's great. And Doris, what do you think? We've heard so many Renaissance examples this morning already, right? What do you think? You're muted, Doris.
I think that this is wonderful, and we really do need to feature this work in very visible ways. Bristol should be a model for what we do. I hope that Andrew will want to feature some of his work on the website, maybe participate in a series of lunchtime meetings that we started to imagine yesterday. If you'll allow me, Rainer, one way to kick off a certificate program in culture and development was suggested yesterday by our colleague Charles Landry, because we need to see what policymakers are thinking, invite them to think along with artists, along with educators. And Charles came up with, I thought, a brilliant recommendation is to have a series, maybe 5 or 6 brown bag lunches, lunch for us, dinner for you, but informal, intense conversations about what a certificate program would look like, what are the examples, what are the collaborations we need to generate. So I hope that we can be in touch in this ground floor for making an architecture of a kind of development, a kind of re-education that people don't see yet as necessary because that's the blind spot. I want to say about Schiller, one of the reasons that I'm such a fan of Schiller, and in Spanish I would call him, you know, my patron saint, el santo de mi devoción. Why? Is that his response to the terror in the French Revolution, his response was to sit down and write not only about aesthetics, but about aesthetic education. We need to re-educate our feelings and our capacity to reflect. Re-educating feelings is very much on the agenda. As I said, if we continue to act as modern subjects who are geared towards getting and spending, we will destroy the earth at a greater pace. Training the feelings differently, reorganizing our feelings is very much on the agenda. And if policymakers don't see that that kind of change will produce also behavioral change, which is a close term for politics, I think we can help expand that notion for them. And that's an educational project. So I'm just delighted to be in this conversation, and I'm already speculating on several ways that we can continue it. So thank you for asking me, Rainer. Yeah.
And thank you for telling us your view. As I knew that, we've heard that these examples we've heard so far are exactly in the center of the Renaissance Now idea. And as Doris said, we have to spread the news, let's say, and that's what we're working on and what we decided yesterday within the Renaissance Now group. And Doris mentioned already, go to the webpage and contribute to what's there, and then we'll meet soon again. But let's move forward now to the 2 last examples of Mannheim, and then we can come to a broader discussion. And I would like to follow and then we can close with the pretext program that Doris already mentioned in her introduction. I would like to follow with a very strong example and a very strong case that was initiated by Mehmet Ungan, who joined our group today, who is the founder and the visionary of the Oriental Music Academy. And what he did from the beginning, from the first time he had the idea till today, is an incredible example of what we were talking about at the launching event of Renaissance Now, how arts can be a game changer and how arts can contribute to societal change. And this happened here through nothing more than the initiative of this man, Mehmet Ungan here, and then the things that happened afterwards. And maybe Mehmet, thanks for joining us this morning. Mehmet is a musician and a cultural manager and a whatsoever. We can count all things he is. He's a professor also at university. So I would like to ask you, Mehmet, if you can just tell us the story of the Oriental Music Academy and the crucial points that happened on the way. And Mehmet and me, we agreed that I assist Mehmet with English and German, as he's always assisting me with Arabic and Turkish. So I can now pay back. Thank you, Mehmet.
Gut so. Danke für die Einladung, für diese wunderbaren Wörter. Das ist ein guter Beginn. So, die Geschichte von uns ist eigentlich zum Teil auch meine persönliche Geschichte. Ich mache dann so kurze Absätze, dass du dann
Ja, Mehmet. Ja. So Mehmet says he's happy to be here, and the history of the Oriental Music Academy he's going to tell us is also his personal history, of course.
So, alles beginnt mit einer Sehnsucht, weil die Motivation, etwas zu tun, kommt ja meistens wirklich vom Herzen, vom Innern. Musik ist nicht etwas, was man sich denkt, man kann es auch denken, aber in meinem Fall war Musik seit meiner Kindheit das Thema. Musik und die Entfaltung des Menschlichen war immer Hauptthema.
So, in the beginning there was a longing, a yearning, Mehmet said, the motivation to develop something. And he says, because music, which is his core art, comes always from the heart. You can talk about music, of course, he's saying, but it has to come from the inside. And that's why for him, at the beginning, there was this longing.
Ja, so damit bin ich ja nicht allein. Irgendwann mal stellte ich fest, dass wir hier, speziell jetzt in Mannheim, vieles haben, ich kürze ja die Geschichte ein bisschen, vieles haben, ob es gutes Essen ist, wir haben mit Migration-Hintergrund Ärzte, Politiker, Anwälte und allen, beste Restaurants mittlerweile, aber irgendwie Musik, obwohl es Hauptthema ist in der orientalischen Welt, wirklich sind singendes Volk, tanzendes Volk, Türken, Araber, Perser, Inder, aber nichts irgendwie man hingehen kann und sagt, wow, da kann man irgendwie sich da hingehen und lernen. Das fehlte irgendwie.
So Mehmet said he was not alone in Mannheim. He was in a very diverse environment, very diverse people, diverse restaurants, the food and everything on the street and all that, and also non-German politicians, non-German doctors, non-German lawyers. So there's a diversity in all the fields, maybe not in an ideal way, but it's there. But what he saw is that so he's saying the cultures from the East, like Turkish, Arabs, Indians also, they're always connected to singing, dancing, and to music. And there was no place in Mannheim where you could learn that. So where you could get education in this regard and in these fields. So that was the beginning, Mehmet.
Ja. Das waren kleine lokale, vielleicht Chors oder irgendwie ähnlich wie Musikschulen gegründete oder die Aleviten mit ihrem Unterricht, weil Musik bei ihnen als heiliger Prozess ist und so. Aber alles so getrennt und im Einzelnen. Also nicht so offen, sehr klein. Und die Idee war eigentlich dieser Reichtum, auch diese Länder, die wir gezählt haben, sind, wenn man vom weltbewussten Blick schaut, was für ein Reichtum das ist. Also das türkische, arabische, indische, 80 Rhythmen und hunderte von Melodien, Abläufe. Also so weit kamen die lokalen Musikschulen nicht. Sagte, können wir das in Form zusammenbringen, dass es erfahrbar ist für alle, auch die nicht von diesen Ländern kommen. Das war ein anderer Aspekt. Also für diejenigen, die das in sich tragen und vielleicht sich entfalten wollen, aber auch eine Begegnung von nicht eben orientalischen Musikern. So, das war ein wichtiger Prozess, eine Begegnung zu schaffen von, sagen wir mal, altorientalischen, der hochklassischen indischen, türkischen Musik und irgendwie eine Verbindung hier zu dem lokalen Ort, jetzt speziell Mannheim, ob wir so eine Verbindung schaffen. Das heißt, dass die Musiker zusammenkommen. So, dann waren am Anfang fast 10 Musiker von verschiedenen Richtungen, nicht nur vom Orient, auch von hier, wie du weißt. Die erste Gruppe war Lebederia, eine Mischung eben von dieser Sehnsucht eigentlich. Ja.
Lass mich schnell sagen, Mehmet. So in the beginning there was this idea to bring all these cultures who are not reflected in the education system, although they were reflected in an association here, in the group there, but to gather them, so to build a crossroad, so that these music forms can be expanded in Mannheim, but also can meet the local music forms. Let's say that were the two motivations to have a crossroad where Oriental forms, because of the richness of the music. Mehmet said 80 different rhythms and all that, but no one knew that in Mannheim on a higher education level, and also they did not meet that much with Western musical forms. So that was the initial thought, or the initial thoughts that Mehmet had, and very soon groups came out of that. Like Lebideria is one of the groups that became very famous from the beginning, where people from the University for Music, for Western classical music, met with musicians from and students from the Pop Academy, which is the University for Popular Music, the only one in Germany, and people from the Oriental music environment. And so, and what is interesting with Lebideria, this group, and many other groups that followed, is that it was not like they did play jazz in an Oriental way or Mozart in an Oriental way or something. No, they created a new music genre. When I first, sorry, Mehmet, just to echo you, when I first heard Lebideria, I thought, and I'm listening to music all day. So when I first heard them, I thought, oh wow, what's that? I've never heard something like that before. What is that sound? I couldn't say that's from here or from there. So because it was new, it was totally new, and that was one of the first things that came out of Mehmet's initiative. But Mehmet bitte, jetzt
Ja.
du.
Danke für die Erklärung. Ich hätte es eher sagen wollen, aber du hast es so gut gemacht. Danke dir, Rainer. Du kennst mich besser wie ich eigentlich.
Nein.
So, aber gut, diese akademische Hochkultur in meinen Augen, das ist sehr, sehr wichtig lernen wollte. So luden wir eben wirklich große Meister, Weltklassen, wie Yurda Tokcan, Necati Çelik aus Indien, die sind wirklich, wirklich Weltklassen in ihrer Art. Also waren wenig Leute dabei, es war unwichtig. Es war ihre Präsenz hier hat eben einige Wellen ausgelöst. So, auf einer Seite ist diese hohe Kunst und der Begegnung, auch der Stile, wie du auch erzählt hast, als Beispiel mit Lebideria. Da ich aber Soziologe bin und Sozialarbeiter, bin sehr interessiert an der Stadtentwicklung. Also mich hat sehr interessiert, was mit den jugendlichen Kindern passiert. Ich kenne diese Sehnsucht speziell, wenn man jetzt Jumbusch bedenkt, diese Roma-Sinti-Kinder und alle anderen, die halt mal einfach mit Feuer dabei sind, wenn es um Musik geht. Ich kann mich erinnern, wie zum ersten Mal ich mit meinem Instrument im Stadtteil reinkam und hinter mir 10 Kinder gerannt. Was ist das? Lass uns spielen, lass uns singen und so. Das waren die ersten Begegnungen. Ich dachte, wow, was für ein Potenzial.
Lass mich das übersetzen schnell.
Ja, genau.
So there were 2 levels. So when Mehmet started the Oriental Music Academy Mannheim, OMM, then he invited big masters from Turkey, from India to come here and to teach in Mannheim. And although in the beginning not that many students came, but Mehmet, and that's the soul of Mehmet, he didn't care. He thought it's worth doing it, and he knew that this is a start, and you have to start slow and small. And then we must also understand that he himself paid for everything. So it was his personal, not only initiative, but also contribution on the budget level. So that was the one level. He made the Oriental Music Academy a very high level higher education institution without being an official institution. But at the same time, Mehmet said he's a social worker and a sociologist by profession. So he was also interested to be part of the city development, and in the special case of the district he's living. And so he saw, because he knows very well the longing of young people, of the youth. And when he saw the Sinti and Roma kids on the street in his district, he knew initially he has to be connected with them. And then also he made this experience when he first came with his music, walked through the district. The kids were following him and said, "Hey, what's that? What are you doing there? Can we see that?" And I must tell you this story. And Mehmet, sorry, please allow me. You didn't say that, and I know you won't say it, but let me say it. And because I know Mehmet for many years, and that's why I know from private talks we had. I know some private things, but I'm sorry, I have to tell it, Mehmet. You know that. So then, of course, it happened that Mehmet took all the street kids, and yes, there are street kids in Mannheim, to his Oriental Music Academy, and just gave them a room where they can be during the day when their parents were away for work. So, and he just gave them education in playing the oud, whatsoever, the ney, and then And then and I know this story because I was with Mehmet when he did an interview with a journalist, and so then he was asked, Mehmet, but did something bad also happen when all these people came to your academy? You don't know them. And then Mehmet said, yes, sometimes in the evening, 1 or 2 uts were missing. And then this journalist asked Mehmet, oh my God, but how could you do that then? And then Mehmet said, and that is the soul of Mehmet, you must understand. Mehmet then said, you know, that's fine. Then they could have played the oud without me in their homes on the street, and that's absolutely fine. I can buy new ouds. I can find new ouds. I know makers of oud. And what can I complain? It's cool that they took them away. It's fantastic. So then they can continue to play the oud without me. And if they don't have a oud, they need one. And that's Mehmet. He just bought new ouds and didn't think more about it. So Mehmet.
Ja, vielen Dank. Es ging auch mit dem Darbukas. Ich glaube, ich habe an die 100 Darbukas, jetzt habe ich 3 oder 4, wenn ich ehrlich bin.
He had 100 Darbukas, and now he has 3 or 4 only. But I mean, you can only pay one, Mehmet.
Aber sind so viele wirklich wunderbare Musiker entstanden. Wie Teil von Ateş, der damals als kleines Kind kam, und du weißt schon, dass er an der Popakademie studieren dürfte. So, das war so von der Straße, der nicht mal mit der Reife hatte, glaube ich, gerade noch Abschluss, geschafft hat bis zum Schluss von seinem Studium. Und dieser Teil von war sicher ein Beispiel für viele, viele andere Jugendliche, die ihn als Guru verehren. Also quasi unsere Arbeit.
Lass mich das sagen. It's very important. But some of these kids we were just mentioning, they became students at universities, although they didn't even finish school, because they came through music and through these instruments, through the engagement with Mehmet. And that's what Mehmet just said is, come on, I mean, it was successful. They came from the street, and then they ended up at university and now are very well respected musicians. And that's, you can see that again, there's an education and arts has an effect through people like Mehmet.
Wir haben eigentlich, wenn man nur die Darbuka-Spieler sieht, speziell aus Bulgarien, ein paar Türken dann auch dazu, wir haben wahrscheinlich 4 Generationen wirklich, also die Älteren so ab 20 bis 30 so, die nächste Stufe um 18 rum, die dritte Stufe 12, 13, und durch die Pandemie konnten wir leider nicht das weiterführen, jetzt müssen wir nochmal beleben. Dann hatten wir wirklich kleine Kids, manche saßen auf dem Stuhl und ihre Füße waren nicht auf dem Boden, so klein, riesen Darbuka in der Hand, voller Seele dabei. Dieser Ausdruck, wenn man sieht, diese Gesichter, diese Eingenommensein, dass sie einen Raum haben, physisch, aber auch psychisch, die fühlen sich zu Hause, sagt, du bist unser Papa, nicht um mich zu loben, aber so wie wichtig das ist, Menschen Raum zu geben, physisch und auch psychisch, wo sie angekommen sind.
Mehmet said something very important. He said, it's super important, that's the experience of his work, that you have to give people a space where they can develop and where they can feel that they are welcomed and that they are at home now. And that's what Mehmet has seen sometimes within 4 generations of one family. So where the elderly came, and then the kids, and kids even started learning at his academy. They couldn't even reach the floor with their feet, and now they're very, very well respected musicians, and that's very important. When you heard Mehmet reporting that, and you heard his enthusiasm, you heard the soul of Mehmet. He wants to see happy people, happy kids, and people who feel embedded and feel respected and feel worth in their thing they're doing, valued in their things they're doing. And Mehmet, vielleicht kannst du sagen, wie die Orientalische Musikakademie sich dann zu einer Universität entwickelt hat.
Richtig, ja. So, das ist nun kurz so zur Arbeit, aber du weißt, dass wir auch viel Jugendgruppen haben, die von Flüchtlingsheime kamen, von
auch so refugees came to work.
Ja, also nicht nur die Kids da aus Bulgarien, wir haben mehrere eigene Projekte. Und an der Stelle möchte ich aber eine ganz wichtige Sache loswerden. Wenn ich auch die Vision hatte, die Leidenschaft alle, aber wie immer, ohne irgendeine Unterstützung, ohne Kooperation, ist es nichts. Also wenn ich kann eine beste Vision haben, aber ich habe keinen Raum, physisch, mental, auch Material. So, So, dann, da muss ich Stadt Mannheim wirklich loben, auf jeden Fall. Oberbürgermeister ganz speziell, ich weiß, wie er eingestellt ist, wie er von Beginn an unterstützt hat. Dann dazu Kulturamt und der Integrationsbeauftragte. Ohne diese Anerkennung von dieser Entwicklung in diesem Stadtteil, unsere Vorhaben, auf einer Seite hohe Kunst, aber auch soziale Arbeit, so, und Beteiligung am Stadtteil, mitgestalten, wie kann sich Stadt ändern, nur mitgestalten. Aber ohne diese Hilfestellung von Beginn an und Rückendeckung hätten wir es nicht geschafft. Ja, das ist mir sehr wichtig, dass man das erwähnt.
Mehmet, danke.
Yeah.
So Mehmet said that he also has to admit that he had the passion from the beginning and he did the work, but he said without being embedded in a bigger environment, this passion sometimes goes to nowhere. But in this regard, what he experienced in Mannheim, he said that he felt recognized and seen from the very early stage by the Mayor Kurz, by the Department for Culture, Kulturamt in Germany, and by the Commissioner for Integration, Klaus Preisler is his name, and the head of the Cultural Department, Sabine Scherer. They've all recognized and acknowledged the work of Mehmet from the very beginning. And I guess what Mehmet experienced and just mentioned is a very important issue, that there's an environment where all these things can come together and not develop separately, so not in silos, so that there's a holistic approach, and Mehmet experienced that in the city, and through this recognition and acknowledgement, the Oriental Music Academy became an official study course and study program at the Pop Academy, which is an official university study now. So, and you can study world music now within the Pop Academy, and this is a university degree, a German university degree, but still the Oriental Music Academy in his first day approach is still existing. So Mehmet built up this university part, but is still working on the ground, and this is really incredible. And Mehmet, I thank you so much for joining this group, and I think this is an incredible example. And Doris, you know that I report this example around the world, as it is so touching and so strong. And by the way, while we're talking about it, so sustainable, and not only for the institution itself, but for a lot of students, a lot of people that met Mehmet. And this I can tell you, a lot of people who met Mehmet, that met Mehmet, they still have this in their life, in their professional life or personal life. And this is something that is very touching, the work of Mehmet, and very successful, by the way. And Mehmet, vielen Dank. Und natürlich bleibst du hier. Mehmet stays here for further discussion. Thank you so much.
Danke
dir. And again, wo bist du gerade, Mehmet?
Zu Hause.
Zu Hause?
Ja, aber nachher habe ich eine Prüfung.
Du hast keine Uhr neben dir stehen, oder?
Oben.
Okay, sonst hätte ich. I just asked Mehmet whether he is sitting next to his oud. He's not.
Oben sitze ich immer neben, soll springen. Kann ich
ja. Das wäre schön, Mehmet. Das wäre schön, ja. So otherwise I would have asked him to play a little piece for us. Which and whilst Mehmet said he brought all the masters to Mannheim, I must also tell you that he is also a master, a well-respected master around the world. He's playing with big ensembles. So it's not only that he's bringing the masters coming to another master here. And let me just add one thing. That's a very nice and charming story. So as Mehmet was connected and is connected, of course, around the world, for example, to Syria, he was working with a lot of people there, a lot of masters and people, educators from university. And when then there was this huge stream of refugees moving around Europe and coming to Germany in 2016, I think, then Mehmet could immediately start working and building ensembles and working in Mannheim, because these people he worked with in Syria and Damascus, out of a sudden, were refugees in the refugee camp in Mannheim. So it was not like, let's do a fancy arts project in the refugee camp, which could sometimes be very strange. But in this regard, he just continued the work he did already. And that's very, and of course then in fact in the refugee camp could work with other people there, but it was already embedded in something, and that's also a very nice example. Let's say hello to Ronja. Sorry, Mehmet, sorry.
Das besteht immer noch, das Chor, es geht ja weiter.
Yeah, and still these lines still exist. He's still working with these people, of course. Let's say hello to Ronja, who joined us, who's coming from work at a school. Ronja, hello, good morning. Good to meet you.
Hi, nice to be here. I'm very sorry that I'm so late, but yes, I'm coming from a workshop from a school, and the streets were very full, and yes, but now I'm here and happy to be here for the last 15 minutes.
We're glad you're joining us. Thanks for rushing and meeting us here. It's great. You already heard from Julia, from your colleague and friend Julia, about the Johannas, and we have a chance to talk about it in a second, I guess. But we can follow this round of cases for culture with Yilmaz, who is working, who is the director of the City Library, and who did a wonderful project and still doing this wonderful project, Pretext, that was mentioned by Doris in the beginning, together with Doris and Harvard University, as Doris is the director of the program within Harvard University. And maybe Yilmaz, you can tell us, and then we can see where the discussion will lead us. You can tell us about this project, Pretext.
Thank you, Rainer. Thank you. I am very glad to be here and say something about our new project, Pretext. It is a great pleasure for me. I have worked about 12 years at the public library, and it was always my goal to promote literacy, to promote multilingualism, diverse linguistic literacy program. And it was always my dream, how can I promote reading, promote literacy? Because of a lot of people from another countries, from especially landscape from Anatolia or another countries, they are oral socialized, and they are they are sometimes illiterate, and it is a difficult problem. But not only in multicultural society, in German country, there are a lot of people, they are illiterate. The problem in libraries is, how can I promote literacy? And as I begun in Mannheim, and I was very glad to know you and Doris, and we have now started a new project at our library. We had with Doris a workshop. In this workshop, we have learned to be a trainer program for promoting reading, and how can we use the art, painting, another to look for another way to promoting especially reading and literacy. And we had 25 participants, and now we had started at our children library with Kerstin Brodmann, a great program with some artists, because in our group were not only librarians, there were musicians, painters, and so on. And now we had started not only at our library and in a lot of schools. Perhaps we give you in some in a few weeks our documents and our results. It's very important for us libraries aren't not place for give information, be it in written, electronic, or audiovisual form. Libraries today are place of encounter, place of discussions, democracy, debate, places of cultural expression and reading and language promoting, and place of protection of cultural heritage. Most of people comes from another countries. They have they belong to different identities. Sometimes it is very difficult for them to communicate with each other, and communication is the basis of overcoming the problems and helps them to talk each other. Pretext is a method for not only for promoting literacy, it is promoting to democracy, to speak about a difficult text, to speak about a poem during this project, give us the opportunity to speak each other on that is promoting of democracy during reading, and then from child and young people, but also adults. And it's very great opportunity for me to give you perhaps in a few weeks our results. Is very important for us. And then another way it's very important for our library services. In cultural diversity, diverse society, our focus is on the following missions, which relate to information, literacy, education, and culture. We promote positive value of cultural diversity and cultural dialogue. And we can get these kind of work at library during pretext, and I have written you the link of pretext, because Doris is now here. When I try to say something more about pretext, I don't know, perhaps Doris, you want to give some more information? Now we are very glad this model of this. For me, I say no. Last, what I have to say. In Germany, there are a lot of ways to promoting reading and literacy at libraries, but pretext is the best way to promote reading. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yilmaz. It's flattering to hear you speak about pretext, but I have to say that, first of all, thanks to your comments. Andrew is interested in seeing how we can develop work at libraries in Bristol. Maybe we can have a follow-up conversation. But very briefly, what pretext does is use a challenging text as raw material for art making. That's the entire concept. If you have to make music or dance or painting or theater from a text that no one wants to read, it's on your syllabus, it's difficult, it's in a language you hardly understand, but you are the artist and you have to make a soundscape or a pantomime routine or whatever, little sculptures from plastilina, whatever. You have to go back to the text and pull out something, some concept, some words, some relationship, some grammatical relationship. You're the artist, you're in control. In literary criticism, no one is surprised to hear that the reader makes the text. If we can invite children and adults, other people, to enjoy that joke, that the text is there as a platform for our creative reading, we will have liberated people from the fear of difficulty. Difficulty becomes a productive challenge for an artist. One of the great Cuban poets, Osama Lima, put a lot of aesthetics very simply into a phrase. He says, only difficulty is pleasing. So a difficult text now becomes a spark for children instead of a block. And I want to say something about the magical connection to Yilmaz, because when Rainer introduced me to Yilmaz and we just said that a text is raw material to make art, Yilmaz went for his scarf and he started to play a poem from Heine to music that Heine probably didn't sing, but Yilmaz did. And then he said, and that's how I learned German grammar. And he started to play a very charming melody with German grammar. So it becomes unforgettable. And here we had the ideal partner for pretext, because he had made it up before we ever met. And just to share this with his team and to imagine that children can play music with Mehmet and difficult German texts, is an inspiration for me to think about a future in Mannheim. I would like to say that it's thanks to Mehmet's work that not only was Rainer absolutely eloquent and gripping in the Renaissance Now launch. Everybody's talking about it based on your work, Mehmet. But the mayor too, Mayor Kurz, took full credit for the wonderful things that happens in his city, thanks in great part to your work. So I cannot tell you how happy I am to be in this conversation and to appreciate the magic that happens in collaborations.
Thank you,
so
Doris. Thank you. I am very, very glad we can cooperate with Mehmet, and I am very glad to know him. I give you an example from Plusquamperfekt in German language. Plusquamperfekt is very difficult for a lot of people from another language systematic.
For German.
Yes, yes. This is a poem from Bertolt Brecht named Die Schwäche. Ich hatte eine, sie hatte keine, ich liebte. And a lot of people in schools cannot understand. How can I? Then we sing this at the library. Die Schwäche, ich hatte eine, sie hatte keine. Why, ich liebte, why, liebe, wow. We sing this poem in an oriental, long, I don't know, Barden methodic. And I am very glad to give you bald, as soon, our result in this recorded work. Thank you.
Yilmaz, thank you so much for not only reporting about what you did with Doris and Pretext, but also thank you that you've just started your work in Mannheim and you immediately took a new project into your work, which was, of course, an adventure because you were new here, and that's really very brave and very successful, I must say also. And if this can, and that only started so far, so I think you will continue with that, and you will have trainers within the library, and you will have people who pushing forward this project and who bring it to more people and to more schools and whatsoever, not only schools but other entities. So it's fantastic that you started it and that you took the initiative and took the chance, also the opportunity to take this project. And of course, great that Doris came all the way down from Cambridge in the USA to Mannheim. Okay, it was virtually, but anyway, take into account the digital environment in Germany, which is very weak. It was also an effort to do that. No, being serious, it's great that this project is here, and as we are going to build a new library in Germany, in Mannheim, as you all know, which not only means there's a new building, but that also means, and Yilmaz said that from the very beginning, that's why he came to Mannheim. This means also rethinking libraries and restructuring. And so I guess Pretext is a very good first big step, I must say, to rethink libraries and the role of libraries that they can play in a diverse environment like Mannheim is one. So thank you so much, Yilmaz, for telling us. So we have time to discuss. I just heard from the tech team that we can stay online and discuss if we would like to do so. So I opened the discussion because Ronja joined us and she didn't hear everything from us, and Andrew wrote some things in the chat that Doris already mentioned. So anyone would like to bring something to the table, please do so. And of course, Ronja, we would like to know from you, as you didn't have the chance so far to talk with us about the Johanna project. We heard from Julia, but maybe you would like to add something, Ronja. By the way, Ronja is working at the National Theatre. She's responsible for bringing theater to the people, let's say.
Ich muss mich eins entschuldigen, Rainer. Ich habe Prüfung zu nehmen. Ist okay?
Okay, Mehmet has to leave because he's
eins. Ich habe noch 15 Minuten.
At 1 o'clock, he's teaching. Me, by the way, me too. I also have to leave for another meeting at 1. But anyway, Ronja, sorry.
Excuse me. I would have to leave now. I'm sorry to say. But thank you very much for having me. Just one small item. The city of Mannheim sponsors coaching and fundraising. And I'm responsible for voluntary work, and that's what I do. I work with a professional fundraiser, and I'll help the Johannas or try to get in contact with you. So that's the only contribution I have right now. I'm not an artist, and I learned German by reading serial. I read easy texts even on the cereal box, whatever I could have put my hands on. So I really enjoyed what Yilmaz said or performed for us. So goodbye for now, and I'll get into contact about fundraising. Okay?
Thank you, Manuela. Thank you.
You're
welcome.
You
Bye.
find Ronja and Julia on the internet.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I don't know what Julia told you. So if there are any open questions, yes, I'm here now, but it sounds very interesting what Manuela said. So I'm very happy. It seemed to be a nice lab. And yes, I think, Julia, you have said everything about the Johannas. I don't know if there's anything I can tell now. But maybe that it was a great experience for me to see how a group of women took control and make the project to their own project. So it wasn't me anymore who was leading them or something. They have done it all by themselves, and now they're bringing it to another level, and that's something I really like and I really love about that project. Yeah.
Thank you, Ronja, and thank you for joining this group, although you are very busy today, and the city is busy, as we've learned. So so we can stay here and exchange and discuss further. And for example, what Andrew already wrote in the chat, that there might be some connections between the people sitting here. And what is nice, Julia and Ronja, you are connected to someone who is trying to find funding for you. That's what I understood from Manuela. So it's very good. So she will connect you. I will make sure that she gets your contact, but I think you can also find her. And that's one good outcome, I'd say, out of this discussion, despite the fact that we met and that we and that also Doris mentioned several times, that you all can connect through the Renaissance Now webpage to become a cultural case that will be reported through the journal we are just building up, which is, I guess, also one of the ideas of this group, to make good work visible. And again, what is we have to take into account what Doris said in the beginning, that it's about climate action and the Mannheim local Green Deal, the whole Urban Thinkers campus. But all we said today and all we were hearing today is I would say the basis on what this Green Deal and climate action can work. Otherwise, and Doris said at the beginning, there is no Green Deal without equality and gender equality and education and all that. So I think it's very important that we met within this group. And I also have to, sorry that it's impolite, as I'm co-hosting the event together with Doris, but I also have to leave to another event, which will start in 10 minutes. So, but you can all stay in this group and exchange or whatsoever. I guess your email addresses are exchanged already, as I've been so impolite again to just send this email last night in an open way. But I thought it's in your interest to be connected, right? So good. So thank you so much for everyone, Julia, that you took over, and Ronja that you came, and Mehmet, thank you so much. Although you have to be at university now, and Yilmaz, thank you so much. You must be very busy these days.
Okay.
And of course Andrew joining us from Bristol with this great ideas. And again, I've been there, I've seen it, only parts of it, because you cannot see everything in one day. What Andrew installed there, but it's amazing, and I would like to invite everyone to go to Bristol and see what Andrew and his team is doing there. So thanks, and also thanks for being so brave, joining us with your new laptop. It's always difficult, I know. And Doris, of course. I mean, again, Doris joined us at 5 o'clock in her morning, and this is incredible, really. What can we do? I hope you'll find enough coffee for the day.
I know that you programmed me so early so that I would have the opportunity to show my dedication and appreciation for the invitation. I'm so delighted to be here and to meet all of you, and to anticipate the pleasure of more conversations. Yeah, I think that Bristol should be a site for one of our Renaissance Now convenings, don't you?
Absolutely. That's written in the books, I'd say. Absolutely. No, it has to be. It has to be. And with this agreement, I'm leaving. And Doris, maybe you can just, you cannot talk without me. So thank you again, and sorry for that I'm rushing now.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing, I have to be there. Thank you so much. And Doris, we'll talk anyway. And
Yes.
Mehmet, I'll see you tomorrow. Yilmaz,
Ja.
Ronja, Julia, and Andrew. Hope to see you or in Mannheim. Bye.
Schick mir noch
Thank you.
deine Adresse rein, ja.
Ja, mach ich mal. Bye. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Love you.
Yes, Andrew, you were going to say something. You're on mute. I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. You're on mute. Okay.
Okay.
No? No. We cannot hear you.
Ja, ich muss mich auch an der Stelle verabschieden. Es war sehr schön mit euch. Dankeschön. Sehr inspirierend. Bis demnächst.
Alles Gute, Herr Ungarn. Ich würde Sie gerne kennenlernen, dann singen wir zusammen.
Ich komme auf Sie zu. Ich
Gerne.
habe von Ihnen gehört. Bis bald.
Wonderful.
Danke.
Gerade
Danke,
jetzt auch
Mehmet.
raus.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Ciao.
Bye. Bye. Andrew? I cannot hear you. No.
Oh, schade.
If I could venture a guess, Andrew, maybe you're still via Bluetooth connected to your headphones. So if you turn off the Bluetooth, maybe that'll do something on the laptop.
But maybe in between, I have a little question. What Andrew was written in the chat, that the libraries, that one of the problem with the libraries is that the heavy cuts they have faced. Is it the same in Germany? And is it because of Corona?
Mm-hmm. Yes. We had a lot of problems to meet people at libraries at our. But we had another kind of services. A lot of service from our library were digital reading, promoting for we had a lot of meetings from with writers or school class. And it was very interesting experience for us to make digital workshops. It was a new way for us in Corona. And then now we have the opportunity to meet a lot of people around of the world. It was not possible before Corona. Now, Corona gives us new ideas to create new services, and it was, in my opinion, a new chance for digitalization of our services, because there were a lot of discussion in our librarians' world. How can we digitalization's process as a promote this process of digitalization? Now we are every libraries in Germany, perhaps not so good, but we are digitalized. This is a new form of library services, but the best service of libraries is now to bring people together from another identities to speak with each other. Because when you speak and then in different of languages, you have the opportunity to know another people. That is a democratic process. Because of, I say, pretext is a renaissance for librarians. Not only for Mannheim, I think it is very, very important to make more pretexts in every library. Pretext is a new innovation, new way to bring people together and speak about what we have read, because you can understand more what you read. That's very important. And then these people, they come from not written communications world. It's very, very difficult to know how is the life in Germany. How can I live in a culture in Europe or USA or metropolitan? And it is very difficult to find a place in society, and without the love of writing and without the love of reading, without the love of a book, you cannot find a place in Germany. That's my experience. And then pretext give us the opportunity to love reading, to love book, to love intellectuality, and then perhaps to borrow more books from our library. It's our new way. Thank you.
Yilmaz, I am so enamored with this idea, with this concept, with this project, because I am a German speaker, bio-German, but I grew up learning and appreciating the language via this very Stadtbibliothek Mannheim. I spent, I think, as a nerd, self-proclaimed nerd and bookworm, I spent so many days just in the children's library and later in the adults library, and just making my own personal, well, vocabulary and world space bigger. And later I went there with my students, because I also teach German as a foreign language, and going to the library with my students and telling them, showing them, this is at your disposal, use this. You don't have to get everything right away, but just make it your own. And so your project, I think, perfectly it embodies this empowerment through language, right? Making it your own, taking something and then having it go through your body, like you performed the Brecht so wonderfully, just making it your own and then turning it into something else. And so I cannot tell you how much love just pours out of me. And I do wish we could, I mean, actually, no, I'm just going to visit you and contact you if I may soon, because I really do want to, I don't know, support pretext and the efforts that you're making there, because this is all for a better urban society, isn't it? Empowering the citizens, new and settled citizens, to come together and appreciate this language that we're using, languages that we're using to connect, really, right? So
thank you, Julia. Thank you. This thank goes to Doris, because we have learned from Doris how we can use these pretext, and you can come to us to library. Perhaps you want to be trainer for pretext.
I would love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love that. And yes, of course, thank you, Doris. I've just checked out the cultural agents as well on the side. I'm completely floored by everything that you've built, and getting it right into those areas that haven't been really covered, but are so essential. And so, yes, this is just an event of gratefulness and of discovery. So I'm really glad that we got to meet in this lab.
Me too. Me too. I think we lost
Andrew. Yeah,
we lost Andrew, but I'm sure we'll be in touch with him.
Yeah.
Because he, like Rainer, knows how to put pieces of a puzzle together.
Brilliant.
And so I'm delighted to meet you, Julia and Ronja. Yilmaz is now my close friend and ally. In fact, we have another meeting soon with the director of the European Library System, with IFLA. And so we can report on this meeting and on Andrew's interest, and say that Julia has volunteered to work with you, Yilmaz, you know? Yes. But I'll get off now too, and I don't want to just repeat, but through my enthusiasm, I have to give the credit back to Yilmaz, because, as I said, presenting him with an idea elicited a performance like the one we saw. He was already doing this. You know, this is the creative way towards language learning and teaching. And so what pretext does is make a simple protocol that anyone can use. But the practice was already there, installed and ready to share. So thank you so much to all of you, and enjoy the Schillertage. And tell me what you pull out of a woman's hat.
Will do. Thank you. Lovely to meet you all. And I shall be in touch.
Very
So
good.
This is a warning.
Very good.
Thanks a lot.
Have a nice time.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.